Ja da kan vi godt trekke inn igjen. Så får vi starta sånn noenlunde presis, så vi får litt god tid til kveldsmat etterpå. Som dere kanskje har sett en del, så det mulig å få med seg kopier av Creation Magazine her ute i gangen. Det en som har et bord der, hvor det mulig å få de gratis, og hvis man vil være med å støtte arbeidet som vedkommende driver, som et godt arbeid, så kan man gjerne betale litt for det bladet også, men det mulig å ta de gratis. Og det ikke sikkert at dere klar over det, men i Sverige så det et skapelsesmuseum faktisk, og vi tenkte vi skulle bare vise litt grann om det, av denne virtuelle turen som du kan få på internett ved å se litt det. Så du kan kjøre det nå, Bernt Arild. Alright, så hvis du har tenkt deg til Umeå i Nord-Sverige, så bør dere stikke en tur innom der og se altså på dette skapelsesmuseet. Ellers så det jo selvfølgelig et litt kjent borte i USA også, som jeg har vært på, både på Creation Museum og Ark Encounter, og der det også veldig flott å få lov til å være, så hvis dere vil dra dit, så det å anbefale som en familietur. Hvis man først skal til USA, så kan man liksom godt putte inn noe som litt matnyttig. Og hvis det interesse for, blant dere som her på Skaperkonferanse, at vi i Skaper arrangerer noen turer, for det har nemlig sirkulert noen rykter om at vi kunne ha tenkt oss å lage noen turer basert på bibelsk arkeologi og litt forskjellig, for eksempel ned til Sinai-fjellet i Saudi-Arabia og litt andre ting. Hvis det interesse for at vi skal gjøre litt sånne type ting, så gi oss beskjed om det, sånn at vi kan eventuelt prioritere det for den som interessert. Det vil jo selvsagt koste litt, men kunne man reist en gjeng på det og hatt med seg en som var dyktig innenfor fagfeltet, så kunne det blitt spennende turer, tror vi. Da skal vi få lov til å høre på Stephen Austin. Welcome up here, Stephen, and you're going to talk about the Grand Canyon and the creation and the global flood.
$5 million people go every year to the Grand Canyon. Isn't that amazing? And when I go, I hear a lot of people speaking European languages and Japanese especially. Those are kind of interesting conversations. And so if you get a chance to go see the Grand Canyon, I would say it's a real eye-opening experience. And I'm going to share with you 5 things that you should be getting from the Grand Canyon. And if you come away with those things today, you'll understand Grand Canyon maybe as well as most. My mother gave me a name, Steve, S-T-E-V-E. Okay, and everything I have to say to you today is S-T-E-V-E. Okay, sedimentation, tectonics, erosion, volcanoes, exponential decline. If you understand those concepts, but I'll review them again, you'll get those. Steve, sedimentation, tectonics, erosion, volcanoes, exponential decline. How's that? And so am I allowed to forget my outline for the Grand Canyon lecture? I think not. Okay. Okay, push it again, we should see it. Isn't Grand Canyon amazing? The images show you the river at the bottom of the canyon, and you see the rapids in the canyon where large mud flows come into the canyon and make a constriction, and so the river runs rapid. Many of us have gone through the Grand Canyon. I've done 33 trips through the Grand Canyon. 2 years of my life below the rim. I can't believe that, but I think it's true if I count all days. But I've been to many places in the Grand Canyon, but most of the Grand Canyon I haven't seen yet. So it's crazy. There are towers in the center of the canyon called temples, some people call them. These, they mark the travel of the canyon. But everywhere you look in the canyon, what do you see? You see stratification, don't you? And the process associated with stratification is called sedimentation. Process associated with stratification is called sedimentation. There are canyons within canyons. Some of the big side canyons are tens of miles long. At the rim, the canyon is 4 to 18 miles wide. Sorry about the, but I think in miles, I'd have a hard time converting all that to kilometers. But the 4 to 18 miles wide, 257 miles long along the, from California and Nevada border almost right through to almost Utah, 257 miles long. And there's the tower on the south rim looking northeast. And you can see that low country to the northeast of the Grand Canyon. Okay. Let's put the pieces of the Grand Canyon together. So I have a kind of a puzzle assortment. There's 5 pieces of the puzzle. If you put those together, you got a good thinking about Grand Canyon and what we have learned about Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon, creation and a global flood. That's what I want to call it today. Grand Canyon has become an icon for, and what do you think? In the world, the impressions that people have, the iconic impressions, deep time, primitive earth, there's some kind of primitive earth there, and there's a calm and placid seas that deposited the sedimentary strata, and then slow erosion, right? Who has not been told the story that Grand Canyon was eroded by the Colorado River during millions of years? Now, I grew up in California, and which is right next to Arizona, where Grand Canyon's located. And when I grew up in that area, in the previous century, in grammar school, they told me that the Colorado River eroded Grand Canyon. And here I am, a senior citizen now, and I'm still working on the impression that I have that Grand Canyon was eroded by catastrophic drainage, spillover drainage of a lake. Quite different than the idea of a long ancestral river. Grand Canyon, the block diagram, I like to show that because it illustrates the layers, and those layers are very, very interesting. To me, especially, sedimentation and tectonics are key. But is it deep time? Is it primitive earth? Is it calm and placid seas? Is it slow erosion that made Grand Canyon? I got involved in a research project called RATE, Radioisotopes in the Age of the Earth, and believe it or not, I had $250,000 to spend on isotopes, and I chose to spend the isotope money in Grand Canyon. And so I have to come away saying, if there's anybody who should believe that Grand Canyon rocks have been successfully dated millions and millions of years, it should be me, because I've spent $250,000 on dating of rocks, but I came away believing that radioisotope ages are discordant. Let me talk to you about that. The diabase sill in Grand Canyon, that's a layer that's down deep in the Grand Canyon. And I can point to it here. See right there? There's an igneous rock formation in the sedimentary rocks of the Grand Canyon down above the crystalline rocks that form the inner platform of the Grand Canyon. And that sill ought to be dated because it is igneous body that was squeezed between rock layers, sedimentary rock layers, and it should give one age. What is that age? And so that's the diabase sill. It should be the most easily dated rock in Grand Canyon. Okay, and I've spent the most money in Grand Canyon, so on rock dating. So what's the story there? 0.84 billion years, 840 million years, was the potassium-argon isochron age, plotted on various graphs. This sloping line is what's called an isochron, and that sloping line should be proportional to age, and allows it to be dated to two significant figures: 0.84 billion years, 840 million years, the potassium-argon isochron age of the diabase sill in Grand Canyon. But what was interesting, and I found this out almost immediately, was the rubidium-strontium isochron age gave a three significant figure age, 1.06 billion years, or 1,060 million years. The rubidium-strontium isochron age, which I guess is maybe a better age on the than the potassium-argon. Potassium decays to argon, rubidium decays to strontium, and the ratios of those elements in the rock should be proportional to age. And then what? Another discordant age, the lead age, and then a fourth age, the Sumerian neodymium isochron age, 1.4 billion years and 1.2 billion years. In other words, the rocks seem to give conflicting ages for the rock layers, and they should give one concordant age. So of all the people who have dated Grand Canyon rock, it should be me that is promoting radioisochron dating, and what? We got 4 different answers. The methods assume closed system and the beginning quantities are known, but the isochron method allows the initial condition supposedly to be known and the beginning quantities are known, and then the constant decay rate. Those are the assumptions. Closed system, beginning quantities are known, and constant decay rate. What is the true age of the diabase sill? Multiple choice test. Here you go. A, 0.84 billion years. B, 1.06 billion years. C, 1.2 billion years. D, 1.4 billion years. Or how about another answer? How about none of the above? Okay. I'm starting to believe in none of the above. I spent $250,000 worth of dating the rocks of Grand Canyon, and none of the above seems like a reasonable answer to me. I suppose that Grand Canyon rocks have been affected by radioisotope decay. That, I think, is indicated by this by my study and methods, but it indicates that radioisotopes for different elements occur. The cumulative age is not coherent. And look at the rubidium strontium age and the potassium argon age. Those are beta emitters, give younger ages than the alpha emitters. That's the uranium lead technique and the samarium neodymium technique. So maybe alpha emitters have been accelerated more than beta emitters, and so you can start believing in some type of variable radioisotope decay, and that's the general conclusion that I've come to over the years. I like none of the above. Okay, now let's talk about the 5 pieces for understanding Grand Canyon. See, the pieces come together and form a kind of a puzzle-like arrangement, and then you look at Grand Canyon and what? S, T, E, V, E. Okay, and if you want the meanings of those introductory sentences, here it is. Sedimentation, tectonics, erosion, volcanoes, and exponential decline. Those are the 5 things I'd like to understand and communicate to you. Let's talk about sedimentation. Boy, do you see the process of sedimentation as you look at the rocks? That's what a geologist sees. And boy, that's probably the most interesting area to me, is looking at the sedimentary rocks and seeing those bed forms. Now, here in Norway, you have a lot of metamorphic rocks. Are you familiar with those? Okay, well, I've been marveling at your laboratory of rock exposures right here in Norway. Okay, but Mount St. Helens and Grand Canyon have a lot to say about sedimentation. Do you see the inclined strata in the Coconino sandstone, and that's less than 1,000 feet below the rim of the Grand Canyon. And and the process that forms those inclined strata have been are being understood. Mount St. Helens, the pyroclastic flows on Mount St. Helens, I explained last night, were fast-moving slurries at 100 miles per hour, and they were depositing these layers, and provides evidence of rapid layering. And like you see at Mount St. Helens, that's the kind of layering we see in Grand Canyon. Graded beds, we see fine separated from coarse. We see the effects of sedimentation. Even micro-thin lamination is formed in a hurricane. Unbelievable, isn't it? Some of those same sedimentary structures, like the cross bedding and the thin layering, forms in Grand Canyon. It's formed in Grand Canyon. You see that right there in DePete sandstone, down 4,000 feet below the rim of Grand Canyon. Up on the highland areas in Arizona, northern Arizona, you see the Navajo sandstone. You can see again the diagonally tilted layers. Right in there, we're seeing the diagonally tilted layers. In fact, the whole thing is full of diagonally tilted layers, and that is the process of underwater dune migration. And some people suggested it's under air, but the best evidence suggests that those dune-like structures formed by migrating dunes. Do you see how the dunes migrate? And during very severe storms, that's where water dunes migrate, like in the Golden Gate Bridge area of San Francisco, in Altima Estuary in Georgia, and other places here in the North Sea. So we're seeing all kinds of evidence of that type of thing. How about the fine grain rocks? That sandstone we see there, we see cross-bedding in sandstone. How about mud rocks? And we're currently in a mud rock revolution in geology. Okay, if there's a calm and placid sea, then all of the mud should accumulate by vertical fall of particles onto the sedimentary surface. Do you see the idea of vertical penetration? And that area right there, see the vertical separation? And it would create plain beds. Those would be very extensive horizontal sheets. Instead, what do we see frequently in the mud rocks of Grand Canyon, the shales, that type of thing, is we see evidence of ripple lamination. Ripple lamination right here. And that ripple lamination is formed rapidly by mud slurries moving along in fast-flowing conditions, and the particles land at 15 degrees to horizontal. So this is interesting, and because it's been formed in flumes, and this is a recirculating racetrack flume that was built University of Indiana, and it shows the effect of the rapid accumulation of mud particles by this ripple lamination process, and argues for what? Rapid sedimentation of mud, in this case, that formed in Grand Canyon rocks. And we can see that in some of the mud rocks of Grand Canyon, such as the Hermit Formation. Mud rock revolution. I'm a revolutionary. I'm leading a revolution to reclaim the old idea that muds were deposited rapidly, the catastrophist way of thinking. It wasn't calm and placid seas that buried the mud rocks. And if you wanted me to go into that, I'm kind of a nerdy guy. I can do it. But you probably want to hear some of my other lectures on red wall limestone and that kind of thing. The red wall limestone in the middle of the Grand Canyon is a rock layer right there at about halfway down from the river to the rim. And the rock layer has in it, okay, these nautiloids. Okay, there's the image. There's a 2-meter thick limestone bed there, and I'm next to it. And in the middle of the limestone bed, right halfway between the two middles, you see the coarse fragments in the center of the limestone, that one limestone bed. And above it, you see very thin, layered and laminated limestone, and then below it, moderately thick limestone. And one of the most interesting of the fossils is the nautiloid. Nautiloid is a squid in a shell. It's an extinct marine creature resembling a squid, which had a solid chambered shell. And boy, are there lots of nautiloids in Grand Canyon in just one layer, the red wall limestone. I've seen it along the whole length of Grand Canyon out to Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm seeing essentially one nautiloid per square meter of the 2-meter thick layer of nautiloids in the middle of the bed. And a North American nautiloid expert said, "You've seen more nautiloids than I have, large nautiloids. Look at this. They're the length of your arm on the average. They have a 1-to-7 ratio, so they form to the tip end. Okay, here's the tip end over here, and you can see the curved septa in the chambers of the shell, and there's a siphuncle running down the tube. This allows the animal to pressurize its chambers. And yet, look at that. They're beautifully preserved in large fossils, in with large coral heads and other big fossils, especially coarse fossils. And then all around it are these evidences of water escape. Let me see. Yeah, the water escape pipes, those are vertical tubes that sit there. So it was, I think, deposited so rapidly that it couldn't dewater sufficiently, and so it formed by sedimentary collapse as a mud flow, essentially, or a debris flow. There's the tip end, and if you look carefully, the end of the tip is on the other end there, and it's not even showing you the whole length. This organ is longer than the length of your arm. Now, you might be interested in orientations. About 1 out of 7 nautiloids are standing vertical in the bed. And you got thousands of nautiloids, maybe billions of nautiloids in this layer, and about 1 out of 7 are pointing tip and down. You start thinking about that, especially the length in which I've seen it. I first started seeing these nautiloids at Nautiloid Canyon, which is right there. There's Las Vegas, Nevada over there, and here's California down here. And so I've seen them through the canyon, one layer. Alan Titus, a North American nautiloid specialist, he says, you've seen more nautiloids than I have, but I've only seen them in one layer, which is kind of odd. But, yep, that shows you what sedimentation is like. Whoop. Okay, I froze up here. Next. Okay.
Does it work on
Okay.
Does it still work even though that pops out?
No.
I can't go forward.
All right, can you
Try
talk?
not- try
Can you,
not.
can you keep talking and I think I can fix this?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let me just say that what I believe about the nautiloid layer in the Grand Canyon is that it was a debris flow, essentially a mud flow, fast moving. And when that looks pretty good. I mean, whatever you did there. Nope. Okay. And but I believe that nautiloids were buried in a giant mud flow, and I've modeled it. They were deposited essentially as a flow at about 6 meters per second. A slurry of sediment went through and made the canyon, and that made this layer in the Grand Canyon. 6 to 7 meters per second. So that's a very rapid flow. The volume of the sediment in the flow is something like 25 cubic miles of sediment. So if you want to convert that to cubic kilometers, you want to go to about 4 cubic kilometers of sediment to 1 cubic mile of sediment. Okay, and so we're talking about sedimentary modeling that is colossal in scale. Colossal from Marble Canyon, Arizona, the eastern Grand Canyon, all the way out to west of Las Vegas, Nevada. And I had a student working on the problem of how the debris flow ends. And do you know what he, after 6 months of study, started finding? He found the nautiloid everywhere, nautiloid bed everywhere, and nautiloids are identifiable in a large way, and so the nautiloid bed didn't end. And so he had a thesis that
Do we have any Microsoft software engineers in the room? I have no idea.
You want to replay it again? You,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to reboot it. This has popped up, sign into Microsoft.
Okay.
But I am signed in.
Yeah.
Here, look, there's my email, I'm signed in.
Yeah.
But I type in my email address, it says, no, you can't, you have to use your personal email address. See if it pops up again.
okay, so sedimentation, tectonics, and I want to talk about tectonics because do you notice something at Grand Canyon? Not only do you have sedimentation, but you got the inside story to the ground beneath your feet, and that sedimentary story is evidence of uplift of tectonics. So we have 14,000, maybe even 17,000 feet of strata that have been drilled in Pittsburgh, of all places. But we don't, and we have 3 rivers in Pittsburgh, but we don't have any canyon system in Pittsburgh. Very little canyon system. And so what it argues is a Grand Canyon has been uplifted 1.5 miles above sea level. Are you catching on to the idea of tectonics? So something uplifted the whole Colorado Plateau, especially Kaibab Upwarp in the eastern part of Grand Canyon area to over 7,000 feet above sea level. Okay, and so tectonics is very obvious, and you'll see it in the way strata are presented. And then what do you see? You see horizontal strata through the Grand Canyon area on the rim, and that's the argument for tectonics. And most people suggest that North America has been affected, Western North America has been affected by the horizontal shoving of the seafloor underneath the rock of the western part of the North American continent.
I'm guessing it's a problem with that slide specifically.
Yeah.
Okay.
A video or something that popped up.
Yeah.
I don't think Microsoft liked it, so we're gonna go to this one. Oh,
Same problem.
it's a video again.
Might be
Okay. Well. All right. Well.
The next time's one.
yeah, we'll have to
Keep
try
going.
that. We'll
Yep.
fix it.
Yep.
We got you, we got you.
And anyway, the evidence of tectonics is everywhere. For example, you see the tectonics here in Norway. You see metamorphic rock that was probably down deep, a mile or 2 down, is now at the surface. And so uplift has occurred. And then what has occurred over in the North Sea, the downwarp of strata and sedimentary strata where what? Oil and natural gas are present. And so the sedimentation and tectonics are closely associated, and typically sedimentation's first, then tectonics is second. You see the evidence? And then the first. Okay. Okay.
Needs to be clicked on?
Yep. This right here.
If we click on it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. This is the modern observation flume experiments have revolutionized sedimentation thinking with understanding that strata deposition is a very rapid process, 5 meter per second slurry flows, that type of thing. Modern observations and flume experiments have revolutionized sedimentation thinking with the understanding that strata deposition was a very catastrophic process that flies in the face of the calm and placid sea. A man named Otto Schneider, he proposed that the continents were once together, and the pre-flood supercontinent looked like this, according to Antonio Schneider. La création et les mystères dévoilés, the creation and its mysteries revealed, 1859, he published. 1859 was a very bad year for catastrophist geology. What? Darwin was published that year. And so Antonio Schneider's book, The Creation and Its Mysteries Revealed, went on to the shelf. And you can see the evidence of tectonics here in the way the globe is positioned, and imagining Pacific Ocean floor being shoved underneath the western Cordillera of the North American continent. And you can see that very obviously preserved, like in southern Alaska, where the giant fault has expressed itself by the horizontal shortening. And of course, that's the story of sedimentation. And tectonics, strong tectonics of the past, preceded weak tectonics of the present. And this is the plateau of Kaibab Plateau of northern Arizona. You can see that shaped plateau. It has a wrinkle structure called the East Kaibab monocline on the east side, and this is looking west. This next picture looking west, and you see how the canyon opens up with the small little river channels. And many of us suspect that that is a tectonics that allowed water to pond on the east side of Grand Canyon, and then that broke through and deposited the strata and eroded the strata. Here you see the configuration of lakes. Hopi Lake is a lake about the size of Lake Michigan. Hopi Lake there. And then, anyway, you can see the evidence of the shorelines next to the big lake, the lake the size of Lake Michigan. That's called Hopi Lake. And we're doing studies of that right now. But that lake would be roughly the size of Lake Michigan, but deeper. And that lake spilled over at the Grand Canyon right through the Kaibab Plateau, East Kaibab monocline there, the geologic structure on the east side of the lake, west east side of Grand Canyon, west side of the lake. And boy, that's a big lake. So erosion by catastrophic drainage of lakes. Does that sound interesting to you? How about last night when we talked about, the story at Mount St. Helens, March 19th, 1982, a big mud flow came down. It carved a whole channel through the landslide debris and made the new North Fork of the Toutle River. Rapid tectonics, rapid erosion. The spillway of Mount St. Helens resembles the spillway at Grand Canyon. So tectonics, erosion. Are spilling lakes all it takes? That's I think that's the understanding of Grand Canyon. It's not the Colorado River over tens of millions of years eroded the strata of the Colorado Plateau as they uplifted continuously. That's an unlikely theory, most are saying. So erosion, beveled, and spillover erosion of the past preceded the channelized erosion of the present. And so you can think of accelerated erosion in the past. And of course, then what do you see? You see volcanoes at the rim of Grand Canyon. See right up there, there's volcanoes. Those volcanic flows spill into the canyon, so they're younger than the canyon. The strata have to be older than the plateau uplift, but the plateau uplift has to precede the volcanoes and the erosion structures. So the big volcanoes are like Yellowstone. The Yellowstone explosion, more than 200 times the size of Mount St. Helens. That's a big volcanic eruption. So big thing. And those kind of volcanic events created mud flows like Dinosaur National Monument, and the big mud flows there provide evidence of volcanoes in exponential decline. Do you notice the big volcanoes of the past and small volcanoes of the present? And so Mount St. Helens provides this glimpse or window into volcanoes of the past. So volcanoes illustrate the declining power of eruptions with time. And so we see that as the landscape at Grand Canyon stabilized. Okay, and this fits nicely into a creation model. Like the first 3 days of creation week, there was a lot of tectonics. The continents and ocean basins were formed in a single day on day 3, and then it wasn't until the second month, the 17th day of the month, in the life of Noah, that the fountains of the great deep broke open, which is obviously a tectonic event of some type. And of course, tectonics and volcanoes and declined with time. So declining power with time, the process of through time. So the years after the flood, as we progress yearly from the flood, volcanoes have declined, and that's the picture that we see. And what we read in 2 Peter chapter 3 also corresponds to this declining power with time. All continues as it were from the beginning. That was the prophecy of Peter about the scoffers in the last day. They were willing and ignorant that by the word of God the heavens were existing long ago, and the earth was formed out of water and by water. Okay, obviously the reference to the flood and to maybe even the pre-flood creation week, through which the world at that time was destroyed, being flooded with water. So the last words of Peter, be on your guard so that you are not carried away by the error of unprincipled men and fall from your own steadfastness, but grow in the grace and the knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. In other words, Peter, in his last words, in the second letter to Peter, prophesied this this geologic time and controversy that we're living in. So exponential decline is important. Geologic processes were greatly accelerated in the past and are now slowed significantly, telling a general story of exponential decline. Okay, what are the 5 pieces again? Okay, what's the sedimentation is the first thing you see in the Grand Canyon, obviously, and 4,000 feet of sedimentation. And then you see evidence that sedimentation was interrupted or superimposed on sedimentation was tectonics. And tectonics caused the upwarp of the plateau, which created the inside story to the ground beneath our feet that we look and see mountains. We see the Grand Canyon. The first E stands for erosion. Boy, do we see erosion evident. And then the V stands for volcanoes, and the volcanoes, the erosion, the tectonics, and sedimentation have been declining with time, and so we see exponential decline. The global flood in Scripture, right? The waters were upon the face of the whole earth. Universal terms, Genesis 8, verse 9. All the high hills under the whole heaven were covered, and the world that then was being destroyed by water perished. Obviously important things. So Grand Canyon provides a picture of catastrophic sedimentation, tectonics, erosion, volcanoes, exponential decline. Okay, thank you, and I think we're going to go to a dinner and a session following.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ja, det burde jo være ganske lett for oss å huske Steve nå, etter at vi har fått dette akronymet for alt som skjedde der i The Grand Canyon. Og så snakket jo Robert Carter om variasjon. Og jeg må jo si jeg er veldig glad for at Gud har skapt en sånn variasjon, at han har gjort noen folk litt sånn steingal. For at vi kan lære av de som gidder å jobbe så nøye med sånne type ting, som kanskje kan være tungt for en del andre å forstå, men så får vi lov til alle sammen å ha glede av at noen har jobbet hardt med disse tingene, og vist at vi kan få lov til å stole på Bibelen. Og så har jeg vært så heldig at jeg har fått lov til å rafte ned nesten halve Grand Canyon, og fikk lov til å se veldig mye av dette her som Steve snakket om. Og det er fantastisk å få lov til å se det, og få lov til å se hvordan Noas flom var en helt vanvittig kataklysme i verdenshistorien. Nå er det kveldsmat. Den som har bestilt det kan få gå litt lenger enn det vi gjorde til middag. Jeg tror det er nede på det som heter Lone Star her nede. Så de som har bestilt kveldsmat kan gå dit nå og få seg mat, og de som ikke har bestilt kan få kjøpe seg mat her inne. Og så blir det en sånn Q&A-session med det blir jo Frank og Steve og Robert som vil ha det, i tillegg til Kelly. Og det kommer til å være nede på skolen. Så når kveldsmaten er over, så blir det altså en Q&A-session der nede. Og den begynner jo da 7:00, hvis ikke jeg husker feil nå. Nå skal jeg dobbeltsjekke det, så vi ikke sier noe feil. Ja, 7:15 faktisk, så er det det. Og det er nede på skolen. Så da har dere litt tid til å få spist litt kveldsmat.